Okay, we're gonna get this meeting started. We are calling to order at 3:02. Welcome, everybody. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yeah. 2024. The beginnings. So we're gonna do roll call with Tanya.
Okay, I'm gonna try to capture people who maybe forgot to sign in. But I'm gonna base it on my member list. We're first doing members. Okay, Supervisor Corzo.
Here.
Elisa Poole.
Here.
Michael Callaby.
Here.
Ruben Abrica. Kathy Anderson. Here. Stephanie Belinsky. Noel Brutons. The Sheriff Christina Corpus.
Ryan Monahan here on behalf of the Sheriff.
Chris Sherwin.
Here.
Karen Ferguson.
Here.
Robert Holcrott.
Here.
Sean Frost.
Here.
Cynthia Hunter. Jerry Kirby. Here. Lisa McGuire. Here. Rose McCarr. Here. Judge Novak. Jennifer Alcantara behind. Thank you, Jennifer. Becky Powers. And Teresa Dobb. Here. Nicole Reyes. Here. Chief Sarasua. Here. Chris Schaus. Lori Smiley Klinger. Here. Bob Spencer.
Yes.
Selena Toy Lee. Yeah. Hey, did I miss someone that came in? Noel, you came in? And got Lieutenant Monahan. Jennifer. Staff people, Jackie Rigoni. Katie Bush. I'm Tanya Beat. Lena Silverbrand. Wesley Liu, he's a youth commissioner. Joy Zhu, a youth commissioner. Okay, and that's it.
Okay, thank you. We will get started with public comment, and I just want to note that we have a limit for public comment of 3 minutes. So we're excited that we have members of the public here, and we look forward to hearing your comments.
Sorry. Are we doing virtual first?
What are we doing? You can decide. Sure.
Members of the public, okay. If there are members of the public on the Zoom who would like to give public comment, please raise your hand. Rhonda, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, you may begin your public comment.
Thank you. My name is Rhonda Reyna. I am an impacted mother who has experienced severe domestic violence. I began my journey on asking for help in San Mateo County in 2014. I met with Cora. I talked to Cora Legal. I had Melissa Gibbs go with me down to the sheriff's office to file a massive report for much of the domestic violence that I was experiencing. I've read Judge Susan Ilston's 4 volumes on American responses to domestic violence, which is how I first learned about this DVC commission. And I just wanted to say that it's an epic failure. The Violence Against Women Act requires that men be investigated and prosecuted for abusing women, and that has not happened in my case. And so egregious are the missteps that occurred in not investigating Mr. Murdaugh that led to him suffocating me, and that led to my daughter, the victim of domestic violence, being strangled, dogpiled, shackled, and suffocated by up to 8 Santa Cruz police officers. A year later, 2 other children in my same neighborhood were attacked by some of the same officers in the same department. And all 3 of these children got put into the nefarious reunification therapy programs with Lynn Steinberg and Dr. Rebecca Bailey. Peaky's Law just passed and became active on January 1st, was signed by Governor Newsom on October 13, 2023, reiterating that reunification therapy is against the law. So I want to know when this council is going to investigate and prosecute David Murdaugh for all the domestic violence he perpetrated to me, for paying an abusive psychopath to hurt my daughter and trauma bond him to her, and cut me out of her life using a lot of nefarious techniques. I demand that Rebecca Bailey be arrested and prosecuted. You're all going to be discussing Peaky's Law, saying that the judges need training because it's proof that the judges and the judicial staff weren't properly trained. And I'm just tired of the inaction here. I've investigated the Violence Against Women Act funding. It's in the billions, if not trillions of dollars. And so I'm just really flabbergasted that this council exists and yet has not helped me and my daughter in any meaningful way. And I want prosecution. I want Rebecca Bailey to be made an example of. She broke the law. She needs to be prosecuted and put in prison. And that's going to stop domestic violence. And David Murdaugh needs to be prosecuted. And that's going to set an example and stop domestic violence. Thank you.
Is there anyone else on the Zoom that would like to make public comment?
There's
Hello, Renata, can you hear us? Renata, can you unmute yourself? Renata, if you can hear us, we can't hear you. You need to unmute yourself.
You want to try the ask to unmute one more time? Okay, sorry, I'm like, I can't say it in English. Renata, we can't hear you. We see your hand is up, but you have to unmute on your end. So we're gonna move on to in-person public comment. Oh, there you go. There we go.
Hi, good afternoon. I apologize for that. I'm having internet issues. My name is Renata DeMello, and I've been a litigant and pro per in San Mateo County for over 8 years now. I am a survivor of domestic violence. I was strangled and left unconscious. And just like Rhonda, I sought support from San Mateo County. And this last 8 years, I have not seen any type of support from the judges or family court system whatsoever. And to the contrary, what I do see is behaviors that indicate that these officials are not properly trained. Here I am going up against somebody who nearly killed me. I am a mother of 3. My oldest is severely disabled. And the judge orders me to deliver my children to this person. And in addition to that, they completely disregard my ADA rights, my children's ADA rights, and I cannot comprehend how is it that someone that is a judge can possibly make orders like that. So the only thing I could come up with is that they're not properly trained. So if they're receiving all these fundings to how are these fundings being allocated? And in addition, I like to add that I'm very much involved with other litigants in San Mateo County, so I can assert that I am not an isolated case. This is happening throughout the board. There are several litigants, not only women, and from time to time, you do come across a men as well who is suffering from abuse, whether it was domestic violence or post-separation abuse, litigation abuse, and we are not seeing any type of accountability whatsoever. So are these government officials not properly trained? Where is the funding going? And in fact, I followed Rhonda's case. I am following several cases, and this is a pattern. It is something that is occurring regularly, and it cannot be ignored. So my question to you all is, where is the funding going? Where is the training for these government officials? Thank you so much. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Before we continue for public comment, I just want to, I realized I forgot to mention that public comment, when it's not related to agenda items, we're not able to respond to public comment, but anyone that speaks during this public comment can also speak to relevant, to any other agenda item. And we do welcome everyone's voice. Is there anyone else online that would like to give public comment before we move on to in-person? Okay, why don't we move on to in-person? I know we do have some folks from the public here, so yeah. Go ahead.
Happy New Year, members. Thank you for your service to the county this year. The family members of persons living with serious mental illness who don't understand their need to seek treatment voluntarily would like to believe this year will be a better one for their loved ones than last year. I want to publicly thank Supervisor Slocum for recognizing that San Mateo County has 2 very different communities. We agree it is no surprise San Mateo County includes wealthy communities like Hillsborough or Abington, where parents of adult children living with serious mental illness can afford to obtain treatment services for them in states like Utah, even if it's involuntary. Parents of adult children living with serious mental illness elsewhere in the county who resist treatment cannot afford to get treatment for the mentally ill children, however. they must rely on county treatment resources that limit entry to persons that first appear in medical hospital emergency rooms. Those hospitals who oppose the implementation of Senate Bill 43 are profit-making businesses that expect their emergency rooms to generate a profit and who close their emergency when they are unprofitable. Unlike public hospitals like our county hospital and the Veterans Administration. We should stop paying hospitals who oppose the implementation of Senate Bill 43 and the Behavioral Health Directors Association annual dues and start using that money to pay hospitals with emergency rooms, especially for parents who cannot afford having to transport their children to states like Utah in order to get involuntary treatment. Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your comment. Do we have anyone else in person that would like to give public comment? Go ahead, please, and please state your name as well.
My name is Helen Collins. I am a survivor of domestic violence in San Mateo County. In 2011, my ex-husband was arrested. I was told by the San Mateo County DA that we're going to trial for almost over a year. Until he hired Josh Bentley, you all know that name. And suddenly, he offered him a plea. Okay? And then I went into the nightmare, which is family court in San Mateo County. And he continued to use financial abuse, litigation abuse, all post-separation abuses that you could write a book about to harm me and my children. CPS was involved repeatedly, yet he continued to have access to me and my children because he was rich. There's something that has to change. That was a long time ago, and I've met hundreds of women this is the case for. I had a domestic violence restraining order, a temporary, that was signed by Judge Frankie. And when I went in front of Judge Bergeron, he didn't even have the file. I have a transcript that says, oh, I didn't have the file, but I'm going to grant this TR. It's not important. Victims don't matter in this county. That's how it feels. And my children have suffered immensely because of that. So I want to know, we really, all of us want to know, what is it that you guys have accomplished in 3 years in this committee? The minutes don't really give a lot of information. We're not getting a lot of information in public. And, you know, what facts do you guys have to support? What science and research do you have to support how domestic violence is the patterns that go across the board? Because we're not seeing it. Survivors know more than the courts. That's what we're fighting. And so we are actually recommending that survivors not go. Why go to the police? Why go to the courts? Because it can get turned on you. So that's not going to help either. You have to believe women and children. Statistically, we're not lying. That's not what is happening. And it hasn't been happening since I entered this nightmare in 2011. So it would be interesting if we could get the information as the public, where we can find what the Domestic Violence Council has accomplished in 3 years. And what are the qualifications and training that you guys have had that would make you be able to make decisions like this? So wait for my answer.
Thank you for your comment. Anyone else? Would anyone else like to speak? Okay, I'm just going to reiterate again that we're not able to respond to public comment, but I'm happy to meet one-on-one with anyone, and you can reach out to Jackie Ragoni right here on the corner. So we will move on now to action to set the agenda and approve consent agenda items. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Carry on.
Yes, do I have a motion to approve the October 2023 minutes?
So moved.
Do I have a second? A second. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Any abstentions? One from Lori, one from Lisa, and Becky.
Sorry, so Lori,
Lisa and Becky. Anyone on this side, abstentions? No, okay. Thank you. With that, we'll move on to the regular, oh, I'm sorry, let's move on to the regular agenda. We will start with, Family Justice Center survivor, I believe. Lisa, are you gonna share that?
I think when Tanya has a minute, were you gonna pop the slide or not?
No, I did not. It's in our materials.
It is in the new materials. One of the things that Supervisor Corso wanted to bring to the council, and something that I think a lot of the members of our public have been very helpful with, is bringing lived experiences so that we all can kind of examine our roles and try to endeavor to improve the systems that we work within. So I selected a survivor who was part of a Family Justice Center conference, planning conference, I'm sorry, in North Carolina. And so she described, I think, very vividly and clearly what her experience was shortly after a domestic violence incident. So I'm just gonna read right off of the slide that is in your materials. So this individual reported that in the first 3 days after the violence, she installed an $800 security system. She retained a lawyer for $7,500. She filed an ex parte restraining order, purchased pepper spray, spent the first night on her couch with a knife and a pepper spray on her coffee table within reach. Because she was so fearful that the security system that she installed would not stop him. She completed 9 forms, slept in 3 different beds, made at least 7 phone calls, excluding calls to friends and family, so calls for service and support. She received a pamphlet with 30 referrals, or just phone numbers. She missed 3 days of work. She didn't eat or sleep, but she did cry. And she tried very hard to have her child not see the impact of this event. And so I think, you know, when we're thinking about responses to domestic violence, one of the things that we've been talking about is how it is not just about the police responding out to somebody's home or just the need to engage family court services for a restraining order. It's a much bigger picture. There are really comprehensive needs, and I think this is just kind of a general snapshot of a person's experience immediately after a restraining.
Thank you, Lisa, and I also want to give Chief Sarasua some space as well to talk a little bit about her experience in Pacifica with the most recent domestic violence death in our county.
Thank you. We did have a domestic violence incident at the end of December that resulted in a very, very tragic outcome. We had a homicide. We also had the suicide of the suspect and the very critical injury that was sustained to the victim as well, another victim. It was an incredible opportunity to put into action a lot of the services that key members of this council provide. And from sitting in this council only very briefly, 6 months I've been on the council, I've learned so much from each of you, which really, it served as a roadmap for me to have a more trauma-informed approach to how we interface with the family, with the victim, with the children, and that we're not alone as a police department, but we have such a great support system and all of you that represent key organizations. The outpouring of support from victim services, San Mateo County, it's still continuing now, was so impactful to this family. Cora and the services they provide and the advocacy they provided for the victim and the services after the incident That's one thing, you know, when you first have a critical incident during that acute period, everyone is there. But then the next day, and the day after, and the weeks after, less and less people are picking up the phone to call to check in. But that's not you. You're continuing to call, you're continuing to check in, you're continuing to provide for the children. So I'm so impressed with the collaboration in this county, the assistance, the sheriff's office. You know, Pacific is a very lean organization, very, very lean. And we are so strapped for resources. And I was feeling a little vulnerable as the police chief, like, do we have this? This is rapidly evolving. And very quickly, the manpower and was being dwindling, really, as the event unfolded, and we had the assistance of our allied agencies, and we're able to provide this victim and the family with the highest level of professional service that we could. But again, it's not just about taking the report. It's not about just collecting the evidence. It's not about the prosecution. One thing, and my final point on this, was they did go to court and they did obtain a restraining order, and that gave us the authority to take 25 firearms from the suspect. And this outcome could have been much, much worse had we not been given that authority and not, check the box. And I really think too, as well, Cora coming into the police briefings and doing training for the officers and the staff really helped to inform how we do our investigations, what kind of questions we ask, and what kind of critical follow-up steps we're performing. So I sit here with a very full heart and tremendous gratitude as a police chief of a smaller municipality within San Mateo County, and I say thank you. Thank you for showing up and being so present as we navigated this very complex investigation.
Thank you so much. I'm just gonna add really quickly that I just want to name that, the intention of this specific agenda item is to hear from survivors and to hear survivor stories, and we did hear some in public comment, and I just want to state that I wasn't here 3 years ago. I have been part of this council for the past year. We have a lot of work to continue to do to center survivors and their stories, and part of that will be on a future agenda item in a more formal way. So I just want folks to know that, but we do have an interest as a council in creating a survivor advisory body to work alongside and with our council. So I just wanted to make sure to note that. So we will move on now to our task force updates.
We should take a public comment.
Oh, I'm sorry, thank you. There you go. Let's do another round of public comment. We can start with online again and then move to in-person.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
How are you guys doing this evening? I'm coming in as a concerned citizen, essentially. I've heard that lady that was an officer, I believe. It's kind of blurry. It's hard to see who's talking and who isn't. But I kind of wanted to just put another comment in there because my name's Nate Smith. I'm somewhat known for kind of following parental rights, and which involves domestic violence in a lot of cases. And I myself am dealing with a domestic violence type situation, fighting for custody and whatnot. And I totally sympathize with that young woman that was talking earlier. But I have a couple friends that do live in San Mateo, and it seems to me like I heard the officer talk about following up and taking guns away and things like that. Like that's great and all, but what seems to be happening in San Mateo is there's definitely some sort of an underlying corruption going on with the judges, especially like there was issues with Judge Rhea, and it seems to me that it's kind of a pattern of behavior. It's not even just San Mateo. It's like all over California. It seems to be that there's a lot of judges that are systematically abusing domestic violence survivors even worse, giving custody. Like there's one situation where a friend of mine had her ex-husband arrested for attempted murder, almost strangled her to death. And now this judge is forcing her to travel 4 hours at a time to have several hours of visitation with this individual that was arrested for attempted murder. And she has a special needs daughter that can't travel. That was expressed to the judge, and it just seems like there was no sympathy whatsoever in regards to it. And now her daughter's at risk on these long, extensive travels by forcing her to go visit with her abuser who almost killed her. In this kind of situation, it seems almost as if the judges, and it seems like, and even in law enforcement, it's great what you were saying about all those trainings and whatnot, but unfortunately, sometimes that doesn't like go down to the officers that are on the streets. I've systematically seen San Mateo officers overstep their bounds and appear to have God syndrome, where they're just abusing the people that, I mean, the thing about it is they forget that we as the people are the ones that actually hold the power. You guys are public servants. You guys are employees for us. And for some reason, I guess that has faltered, or somehow the judges and law enforcement have gone into the wrong lane, thinking that the tail wags the dog. But I want just to kind of make a public comment and let people know, or at least the public servants know, that to keep in mind that you guys have to have empathy and sympathy for these people, because you guys are just contributing to the abuse. And it's just taking what's been a lot of judges have been doing all over California is taking the kids away from the healthy parent and giving them to the toxic parent, so that the healthy parent has to sit here and fight in court for years and years and years and years to try to get their child back, which generates revenue for the courts. And it also, that healthy parent loses years and years and years of their child's life that they can't get back. And that seems to be systematically happening all over California. I'm in Tuolumne County. I'm about a couple hours from you guys. But I help pro se litigants all over the state and all over the country. And it seems to be a systematic problem with all of the courts. So it could be something you guys probably need to acknowledge or remedy. That's all I need to say about that.
Thank you for your comment. Do we have anyone else online that would like to give a comment on this agenda item? Here we go, Rhonda.
Can you hear?
Oh, we heard you and then we lost you. There we go. Oh, you're muted now.
Yeah, I mean, I would like you to read the questions I have for you, because I have not received equal protection under the law. I've not received any help from all the agencies. In fact, the interdisciplinary teams that the Violence Against Women Act allegedly supports are perpetrating DARVO, which is the Defend, Attack, Reverse Victim Offender Playbook, onto domestic violence victims like myself, and which is the subject of a documentary. My neighbors, 2 other children, were violently kidnapped by Santa Cruz police officers a year after my daughter was kidnapped violently by Santa Cruz police officers, and everybody's been covering it up. I've had a lot of time after healing from my trauma and reading the police reports, and we have several sheriffs personnel who outright told lies about me, fabricated false evidence, wrote false police reports, omitted exculpatory evidence. Detective Joe Fava threatened me when I was taking evidence back for Karen Barker, who mysteriously was removed from my case and now has a lawsuit against the San Mateo Sheriff's Department for the good old boys club and misogyny. So if that's Sheriff Corpus Christi, it's hard to really see from here. Everybody's kind of blurry. Then I just feel like your comments are so disingenuous. It's a slap in the face to all domestic violence victims. You have 10,000 victims a year for a county population of only 770,000, compared to 9.9 million residents in Los Angeles with 11,000 victims per year. So clearly you're not doing anything right. Clearly you guys are the problem. You're causing domestic violence to proliferate, and we know money is at the root cause of this. So this is 2024, and you guys are going to have to turn this ship around or retire out, go find something else to do, because we're not having it anymore. My daughter has basically been psychologically homicided out of my life. I want Dr. Rebecca Bailey prosecuted for child abuse. Peaky's Law is the epitome and the description of everything that is happening to the families here in San Mateo County. We report domestic violence. We get accused of alienating our children. The children are taken away from us and put 100% into the custody of their abuser. We never see them again. And worse yet, people like Dr. Rebecca Bailey then come in and trauma bond the child to the abuser while severing the familial bond to their protective parent. We're not having this anymore. So y'all need to straighten up on that. I'm done for now.
Okay, do we have any other, anyone else that would like to give public comment online? Okay, anyone in person that would like to speak to this agenda item? Okay, before we move on, I just want to briefly state that I know that everyone in this room is committed to doing things a little differently so that we can better support all victims of domestic violence in our community. There have been too many deaths in this community and in every community. But I just want to name that I personally believe that in order for us to change systems, we have to be united, listen to each other, even when it's uncomfortable, and really be objective about what we can shift within all of our respective systems to make an impact. But we do need to, you know, give each other grace and patience and yeah, okay, let's move on. We will move on to task force updates, and before we go into the work group report outs, I just want to share that I recognize that many of us were in this very room yesterday, and going forward, my hope is that for the months where there are overlapping, for the months where we have the official DVC meetings, my hope is that we will just combine them into one. So just going forward, that is the intention. Our task force, I believe, has been meeting for, I actually don't remember, but 6 months? 3 months?
It was like September when we.
Wow. Okay, it felt like longer, but our task force has been meeting for 3 months, and I'm pretty proud of the progress that we've made in that time. We at the last meeting recommitted to continuing to do the work. We know that there's a lot of work to do. The task force gives us the ability to be a little bit more nimble and work more quickly. We will hear a presentation during the next agenda item that we discussed at length yesterday. And with that, we will move into our first committee update. And I also want to note that we are working on you know, sharing the notes and making them available for all for the task force. Yeah, so I'm gonna hand it to Carrie for the better intervention update.
Thank you. I am helping people to discuss one of the gaps that we identified in the ad hoc committee, being the need for education, support, and accountability for abusive partners. And that we need data on existing success rates of VIP programs in San Mateo County. In order to collect information, what we're going to be doing over the next couple of months is meeting with key stakeholders. There's 3 certified VIP providers in San Mateo County and another program operated out of the VA. I'm also interested in meeting with the probation department, the sheriff's office, Cora, and a few other key players to understand how we can better coordinate services and make some recommendations back to this group in our meeting in April. So 2 of the meetings have happened so far. The rest will continue, and I look forward to sharing more information as we learn more. What I can share so far is there are a lot of themes. There's no consistent assessment. There's no consistent curriculum in programs. There's not a collection of data on recidivism rates. And so once people complete, we're not defining completion consistently. And so how can we hold folks accountable if we're not all operating? So we want to get some shared understanding. and towards that, and hope that this group can help facilitate some of that change.
Thank you, Carrie. And yes, okay. If there's no other updates for better intervention, then we will move on to Nicole with legal services.
Yes, a couple of items to follow up on. We had our first legal services working group meeting prior to the December meeting. And the one action item that I could realistically give to the small handful of practicing legal aid attorneys in the county was to compile all the information that's available to the public who are seeking TROs. We want to see what already exists and who's distributing it and what kind of changes we might need to make. Do we need to consolidate it? How do we need to distribute it? Or is it okay the way it is? Should our efforts be focused somewhere else? And then another part of this is to start a conversation on the Survivors Litigation Fund, because as you know, there's just a small handful of us who are providing legal services to clients who are, or DV survivors who are low income. And there are a lot of cases, there's just such a big need for it. And so I need to get together with the legal services team to follow up on that. And then I will have a separate call with you, Supervisor, before we go into that.
Thank you. With that, we will move on to Karen with data.
Okay, thank you very much. So with the data, this has really been a process that we've been moving forward from last year's report of data. And as I've mentioned in the past, we had a roundtable during the summer, actually in June. And so in your packet, you have a data subcommittee report that has individuals that were in that roundtable. And then we've had now an ad hoc data committee that's come out of the task force that Supervisor has been arranging with us. So out of that, what we have recognized is that we have many different organizations that each, similar to what Carrie was just sharing, each have data defined differently, have data collected differently. And so the idea that we would be able to aggregate it all doesn't give us the information in a meaningful way of a report then to say what is the state of affairs within this county in order to be able to answer the questions. And so we're really going to look at this not just from data, but rather what can each organization give us this year in order for us to create a meaningful picture of what is the state in the county. So our goal is to create this annual data report. It will come out by spring of this year, a little bit after April, hopefully. And that it really will have storytelling as a big piece of it. What can we, from each organization's perspective, add to an understanding of this picture? So as I said, in terms of what's been done, we have met, we have looked at the different pictures of data that each organization has, and we really divided it in 4 areas. 1, what do we know about victim services, victim survivor services? 2, what do we know about persons doing harm? 3, what do we know about the toll of intimate partner violence and partner abuse within the county, including the fact that we haven't really added in the past in our reports about the impact on fatalities in the state that are DV related. And 4, what do we know about prevention efforts and successes? So there is a clipboard that hopefully you saw or is being passed around. There are 2 of them over there. We're asking that every organization please mark down what you believe your data can speak to. And so you might have data that speaks to only one area, or you might cover more than one area. Please check off on this from your organization, what it is. Then we will be sending out an email that asks you to give us your data set in a way that makes sense to you, and a little bit of narrative around that about what you believe that is showing that speaks to the areas that you feel you overlap with. We will give you a set of questions that tells you a little bit more of a guide within each area. What are the kind of questions we're trying to answer? So as soon as we get these clipboards around, hopefully by end of day tomorrow, or certainly by end of holiday weekend, for those of you that are recognizing Martin Luther King Day, you will all have this email that invites you to provide your data sets. We would like to ask that those data sets be given to us by end of January as best as possible, because they should be data sets that you already have and that you already use for your own organization's understanding. And then during the month of February, this smaller group of us that are within the task force will start to take a look at this data and see how we can incorporate that into a report. That report will be brought back to the DVC here in April for some feedback, and then it'll be finalized. The last steps within that are that we will involve organizations that are outside of the DVC. For example, Star Vista is an organization that certainly has information that we'll want to incorporate, some general county information, etc. And I think that is where I'm going to stop for there. I don't know if anybody has any questions or thoughts on that.
Just a question. So when we check this off, you guys will be corresponding with us to get the information we indicated that we have.
Correct. Well, thanks very much. We look forward to seeing how this evolves.
Thank you. And I just want to share that the intention of having this report will be to, you know, share it broadly. I personally will be like going to the cities in my district and to the school districts and as many places as possible to make sure that we are elevating this issue and bringing people in to be a part of improving services for survivors in our county. With that, let's move on to Nicole with education and awareness.
The education and awareness group also met before the December meeting, or task force meeting, and the members of the education and awareness working group and the DVAC are pretty much identical. We're all the same people, and so we decided that we are just going to function as one unit. And our ongoing project that our long-term project that we want to initiate is connecting with the Office of Education so that we can provide trainings to faculty on DV. It will be kind of a distilled version of the 40-hour DV counselor advocate training that's required by the state. Obviously, teachers do not have that kind of time, so we are going to condense it, but we will seek feedback from the Office of Education, starting with the Director of Student Services, and from there we'll design whatever training program is appropriate and then hopefully do the same with students. However, because February is coming, all of that is going to be on hold because we need to organize and kick off our second annual Healthy Relationships Art Contest. And this will be, again, open to middle school students and high school students in San Mateo County. We are making a few changes to the contest, including the prize structure. Last time we gave out 3 prizes total, a winner and 2 runners up, but this time we're just going to divide it by grade level. So middle school, high school, 3 winners each category, no rankings. Also, we are just going to do what we're proposing, gift cards, $100 Visa gift cards. And the reason for that, I mean, yeah, there's no creativity or imagination for an art contest, right? But we have to take into consideration the fact that what we were giving away last year required some pretty minimal follow-up, which a couple of the runner-ups would not do. So I think that'll take care of that. And then of course, I'm going to modify the instructions so that they know ahead of time what they'll be expected to do if they want to claim these prizes. Also, we are bringing in a new partner for the art contest. The partner will be the One Love Foundation. They're a nationwide organization that educates young people about healthy relationships. And so they do have student ambassadors in some high schools in San Mateo County. Those ambassadors will, they'll do things like they'll do promoting, right? They will reach out to try to draw interest, make sure that the contest is accessible to their peers. Not only that, they will act as peer mentors. They're going to field a lot of questions, collect physical projects from the students, figure out how to get them to me, come to me, their questions. And also One Love's providing their education center training materials so that the children or the students will have more context and will understand and be able to provide more like well-researched, thought out entries. And then they'll also be involved in the judging panel. And so will you. I will invite everybody to this judging panel. So whoever wants to be in it, just make sure that you mark your availability when I send that out. But this is after we launch the contest. So I'm anticipating that we will be judging in the last week of February.
Okay, thank you. With that, we will move on to Mike Callaghy and oh my goodness, I'm so sorry, I blinked on your name. Ryan.
Oh, yes.
That's right, I'm sorry. With an update about the co-responder advocacy. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll let Adam take it from here, just to say that, I think that, the sheriff's office, San Mateo and the other city are poised, with Cora to get this program started, and I think that Adam's got some more specifics.
Yeah, the board adopted on December 12th, unanimously approved piloting this co-responder process, which will embed embed survivor advocates with law enforcement and dispatch them simultaneously to domestic violence calls. As Mike mentioned, those are 3 partner groups that will be rolling this out initially with Cora. Currently, we're working on finalizing contracts and MOUs and a little bit of finalization of the program. How is this going to work exactly? We've had correspondence with Queensland, Australia. Lena Silverman will search every corner of the earth to find people who have done co-responder models, and they had a well-developed one apparently. Santa Barbara and some other folks to try to pull good ideas for our model. We're trying to be deliberate about it so that when we roll it out, it's done in a thoughtful and effective way. So we're taking, the next few months to see in partnership with Cora exactly how this is going to work, and dot the i's and cross the t's. But from an idea that was referenced or brought up at October meeting to board approval in December to a rollout, hopefully second quarter this year, I think we're making some pretty good progress. Yeah, and just to add to that, we're obviously very excited about this. The sheriff this was kind of a thought that she had quite some time ago. We were looking at the successes of the mental health code response model, and we said, why can't we just kind of take that model and build off it? There's certainly a need, as we can point out, with domestic violence, and what we see from a response standpoint is oftentimes our first responders get there and they do the things that they need to do, conduct an investigation, get help and immediate care for the victims. But where we see that fall off, and obviously we do connect them with Cora, and so there's mechanisms in place for us to make that connection. But we feel that, as has been pointed out, you've got to go further than just that, right? Providing the resources to say, hey, these people are here to help you. We often know that victims at that point are at their most vulnerable state. And as days go on, oftentimes, that is oftentimes when there's that gap and potentially, there's that draw from the abuser to maybe go back in that situation for a number of reasons that we know exist. So we're hoping that by implementing this model, we can kind of fill that gap and get those services quicker and kind of keep those services right at that person's fingertips. So we're going to be focusing on our North Fair Oaks area, primarily out of our headquarters division, I think, as we pilot the program. And the reason for that is as we look at our data, that area we see probably the most instances of domestic violence. So we're very excited about it. And thanks to the CEO, Mike Callaghy, and Adam Ely for working with us on this and obviously for spearheading this.
It wasn't me, but I'm happy to be a part of it. I'm gonna give credit to the sheriff and Mike and staff for that. Okay, I think that was our last task force update. Let's move on to public comment for this agenda item.
Virtually, if you have public comment on this agenda item, you can raise your hand. Okay, Nate, can you hear us?
Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, so I apologize. There's a little background noise. I have a bunch of people texting me all at the same time. So I just wanted to put on public record that I've been listening to like all the leaders of your guys' community, all the things that they're doing, all the programs they're putting in place. But the problem with it is like, it sounds all good and it's all fluff. And it sounds like you guys are actually doing something, but here's the problem. When it comes down to actually enforcing that stuff and you have domestic violence victims coming forward and then they go through the legal system and 5 years down the road, they finally make some headway on custody of their kid because the courts decided it's better to be with the toxic parent. And which is actually, it's horrific to hear of that because we're basically damaging our next generation of children that are going to be leaders in this country. But the thing about it is what I'm hearing systematically is in these meetings, what you guys are doing is a PR event. There's a lot of fluff. You're saying we're doing this program, doing that program, yet I hear nonstop. I've heard judges down there systematically taking like little girls and giving them to the parent that was actually sexually molesting them, and then having other guys come molest this particular child and then sealing it so that people can't hear about it. Like, that's the most disgusting thing I think I've ever heard. When I was told that, what I've learned, I'm a pro se litigant. Once my child was taken away where I'm at, I decided to take 5 months off of work and learn family law. Systematically right now, I'm putting together a federal RICO lawsuit against Tuolumne County for multi-millions of dollars. Once I was told that this was going on down San Mateo, I promised that person that once I got done with this, I would come down and help them out with that too. So I want you guys to keep in mind that your behavior is not going to go unnoticed. We, the people, are the ones that are in charge. I think you guys forgot that. And this is mostly directed at that sheriff that was just talking. But I want you guys to keep in mind that we the people aren't afraid of you guys, and I will help them put together a large federal RICO lawsuit that will hit news lines right now. So I have a pretty good following online. So I want to let you guys know that you guys should probably stop your behavior and stop this child abuse. The people, you guys are abusing the community. You guys are biting the hand that feeds you, and that's just not intelligent. Well, you guys should probably just take your paycheck, do what you got to do correctly, and go home to your family. But I want to let you guys know that after I heard that, I'm going to be dedicating all my time to making sure that the corruptness in San Mateo gets taken down. So you guys enjoy your night and get home safe.
Great comment. Do we have anyone else online?
Yeah, Renata. Hello, Renata, you can unmute yourself.
Hi there. Thank you so much. I'd like to basically reinforce what has been said. It all sounds wonderful. All the things that you guys are sharing sounds absolutely amazing. But the reality is that it sounds like gaslighting at its best. In fact, I can tell you right now that I have emailed the Board of Supervisors. I have personally emailed you, Miss Noelia Corso, and I have never received a response. I have emailed the sheriff, and I never received a response. I do not see any action. What I see are words. Words don't mean anything. You have to walk the walk, because at the end of the day, you're talking about people's lives, people that have suffered tremendously, people that are here today by the grace of God. They could have been dead. And you know what, it's really sad is that someone has to die in order for people to pay attention. Pickey's Law was made after a child that has died in the hands of an abusive parent. And You know, we can sit here and talk about all the different laws that have been named after children. Women are dying. And what are we doing about it? We're sitting around and talking about it, but this is pretty black and white, and it doesn't take a brain surgeon. It doesn't take, it's so simple. You see it for what it is. And what we are seeing is a lack of action, lack of accountability. And instead of creating great plans, why don't you just act on it? Why don't you respond to the emails? Why don't you respond to people that reach out to you, begging you for your support? So, and I'm not just saying this for myself. I am very well connected with other litigants, other survivors that are here today by the grace of God. They're breathing by the grace of God. And that is not something that any of us can take lightly, because life, it can go away in a split second. So with that said, I really, really encourage you to stop talking and start doing. Take action. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. I think we have one more online and then we'll move to in person.
Hi there. Yes, I just want to thank Nate and Ren for their comments. Nate called it out, as I do see this as nothing more than a PR campaign. And as I said, the disingenuous comments we're not falling for that anymore. What I see is our VAWA money being spent on you doing meetings, surveys, surveys, commissions, subcommittees, and then hey, my domestic abuser, David Ross Murdoch, needs to be investigated and prosecuted. And so far, even now that I've brought it to your attention, I don't hear anyone offering to do that. I was in the legal meeting earlier this morning and everybody ran out the door. Not one person came to talk to me. And I'm supposed to be the we the people that you're supposed to be providing services for. There's also a blue laws discrimination happening with unmarried women, and Cora's legal counsel did not tell me that as an unmarried woman, I had full custody of my daughter and never needed to enter family court. And I want to know why. How come Cora Legal did not give me proper advice? And how come the many other mothers in San Mateo County who were also not married to their abusers are not being told that they don't have to go to family court because California law says that our children that are bastards are 100% our children and dad doesn't have custody of them. Yet there's some sort of custody switch that's happening and the attorneys are all lying to us. So I'm just really glad that a lot of us are showing up here, and you can expect to see more victims and more survivors showing up. And we don't want to hear about you setting more meetings and doing more surveys. Judge Susan Ilston published 4 volumes when she was working here in Burlingame, and she put together all the documents such as the Quincy method for the interdisciplinary teams to prosecute abusers. But this is being weaponized against the victims, and it's shameful and it's disgraceful, and we're not going to put up with that anymore. So I'm concerned that you're not trained in domestic violence, because Katie Bush told me you're not when I asked to look at your domestic violence training certificates. I've done some of the domestic violence training. It's inadequate. It's not accurate. So no, domestic violence survivors are the ones who need to start training new people coming in, because uneducated people training uneducated people, how do you think that's going to work out? 20,000 domestic violence victims next year? 30,000? I want to see that number go down, and I want to see abusive men being prosecuted immediately, Sheriff Corpus Christi.
Thank you for your comment. Do we have any in-person comments or any other online comments? Okay, please, state your name.
I'm Cynthia, I'm sure I am Commissioner. I'm sorry I was late. I just wanted to ask, I mean, you to bring this up, and I'm so sorry, but is our fatality review, deputy committee, in light of the number of homicides we've had that are domestic violence related, supervising so that all the homicides, everything up to the were domestic violence related. I don't know if that's still true for the last calendar year. There is the domestic violence fatality review initiative. They do free technical assistance out of the University of Arizona. This is familiar with that. So we brought them out to the Bay Area before. They can work with individual fatality victims and help us basically review the homicides to figure out where the gaps are for us to support the community. So I just wanted to raise that as another caution. And I worked with Dr. Websdale. He runs the institute. I'd be happy to reconnect with him if anyone is interested in even exploring it as an opportunity.
Thank you for your comment. Any other comments? Okay. I will add that death reviews were part of the conversation of the task force yesterday, and it is something we'll be looking at in the coming months. I don't know the exact date on that, but definitely another area that we want to learn about and improve if needed. And with that, we will move on to the Family Justice Center presentation by Elisa.
Okay, so as part of some of the discussions around the task force, one of the, I think, leading recommendations from the various individuals who provided input was to evaluate whether or not San Mateo County is a good fit for a family justice center. And so we've been kind of, as a task force, working through getting some basic information and kind of discussing what family justice center is. And then we've had expert come in and present about the framework overall and the work that his group can do to assist the county with planning processes. So I'm going to talk just very briefly today a little bit about FJCs overall, what their history is, some of the best practices that have been coming out of this model. And then I'm also going to talk a little bit about some of the learnings that we've had from some visits and other discussions we've had with neighboring family justice center groups within the Bay Area. And then we'll talk about the next steps and where we are with the task force planning. Thank you. All right, we can skip over that. Also, I think, sorry, Tanya. Do you want to put
I don't have.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
All right, moving on. Yeah, one more slide. So the Family Justice Center framework is not a new model. It originated in the early 2000s, and George W. Bush created a Family Justice Center initiative. And at that point, kind of a number of family justice centers across the country began opening. And then a few years after that, it became a purpose area for VAWA funding, meaning there have been some evidence-based practices, best practices that have originated out of the FJC models. And so mostly to encourage other communities to consider it for ourselves. All right, so named in the report, I don't remember if it was the VAWA report or the president's report. There are a number of best practices, and I think it kind of helps us look at overall whether or not it makes sense in this community. So co-located multidisciplinary services can help increase safety and support. So if somebody doesn't have to go to 15 different locations or have to wander around county center trying to find the right person to talk to get their restraining order filed. If we can create a singular location where they can go to and get kind of their holistic needs met. You recall back to the survivor story that I shared earlier, you know, talking about the concrete services like security system and security upgrade. Perhaps somebody can help her with California victim compensation applications. Perhaps somebody can help connect her to a mental health provider who can help with some of the initial crisis that she is experiencing. And then of course, the legal aspects. Pro-arrest mandatory arrest policies in FJC communities have been found to increase accountability for offenders. And it reduces re-victimization of victims. Key among the best practices is that we consider victim safety and advocacy to be the highest priority of the delivery model. I think when I talk about a family justice center, that's what I'm thinking about first, is what does somebody who's walking through the door right after something has happened need help with? How can we meet those needs as a community? Respecting and adhering to various practitioners' confidentiality is a priority. It has to be a safe space where offenders are not, offenders or persons who do harm, using that, who are prohibited from visiting on site. Communities are typically most successful in building FJCs when they have a history of DV specialization and collaboration. And also strong support from local leadership. All right, and then strategic planning, a good formal strategic planning process is also critical. All right, okay, so I think it was in December, Adam, Ely, and Lena and I had a call with the executive director of the Contra Costa County FJCs. And they talked a lot about kind of what has worked well with them, what their experiences have been. You know, I think the most significant thing that she said kind of up front was that it's not about the building or the space, it's about the partnerships and relationships. We could have the most beautiful building, but if we don't have the right people in the building who are committed to the same thing, we're not going to be successful. They currently have 4 locations, and their service model is built around crisis support, long-term safety, and community building and community partnerships. They have 70 MOU partners who are either on-site or affiliated and providing direct services to individuals. And they're not just doing kind of the services that I talked about, but they're doing things like cooking classes, community fellowship, healing circles, tax support, you know, a very holistic view of what somebody might need support and assistance with in one place. Looking at their clients, this was part of their impact report. It is very largely domestic violence related victims, but they see all other types of violent victimization, which you know, I think is something that as a county we need to consider. They also have, I think I did the rough math. If somebody is better at math than me, that would be great. But I think they saw somewhere around 4,000 clients, adult clients, in 2022. And so then they also did this really beautiful breakdown of kind of what a client's most pressing concerns are when they come through the center doors. So safety was key. Most of them had history of intimate partner violence. Most of them had children. Most of them were low income. And there was a very significant segment who spoke Spanish as their primary language. So I think it kind of gives you a good view of who might be coming and seeking help and what their priorities are. And I suspect that our community would be kind of similarly situated. It looks like very clearly family law is the driver of the services in a family justice center. And I think that would be something that their legal service partners would also agree. But also there's a heavy emphasis on mental health and advocacy services. They have a number of legal clinics on site at the various FPC centers. Thank you. All right, and so Alliance for Hope, I probably should have prepped a little bit better as far as what their expertise is, but Alliance for Hope is led by Casey Gwynn and Gail Sprack, who created the first family justice center in California, way back when in San Diego County. So they have been, really the leaders in this arena. They have done consultancy support for almost every single family justice center in California. And they are working with national partners as well as international partners to create family justice centers. So we had Casey on a call yesterday. He talked a little bit about what their background is, a little bit about what a community who's ready for a family justice center would look like, what the different types of leadership structures are for family justice centers, and then a little bit about the strategic planning services that they offer. So I think key among what they do is they will come to our community, do a community assessment, multi-day interactive planning sessions with all of the stakeholders. I think he shared that there was a community somewhere in the country that was smaller than us, and they had about 250 stakeholders at the table. And so I think, for those of us who maybe are not familiar with the Family Justice Center, haven't worked within that model or worked with it, I think that hopefully gives you a little bit of comfort to know that voices will be valued. Your experience matters, and the needs of the community, no matter what your role is, will certainly be critical to the planning process. And so I think that we are, as a task force, moving forward with a contract with Alliance for Hope to begin the strategic planning process for San Mateo County to determine kind of what is the best fit for our community. And then I think we'll have a better idea about timeline and all that stuff once we have the contract in place. Questions from the group? Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yesterday when we it was yesterday.
It was, yeah.
Okay. When we met with Casey, there were a lot of questions that came up. One of them, again, I said it earlier, but just to reiterate, was the importance of centering survivors and the planning process, in the committee, for the hopeful creation of a family justice center. They can also be called family peace centers. The name is, we didn't have flexibility on the name. But we were given a toolkit that we're gonna spend some time working on. In order to develop what they call voices. It's their model of centering survivors in decision making. And yeah, I'll just say that the intention is definitely to improve services, but also did you mention the child advocacy?
I did not, that becomes really complex.
Yeah.
So one of the other, I don't wanna kind of like let it go unaddressed, but one of my other hats is my work with our child advocacy center in the county. And I feel comfortable saying publicly that I think that we need to invest more time and energy and love and care into our child advocacy center. And so one of the things that I think we need to evaluate as part of the strategic plan is whether or not it makes sense for the CAC to become a part of an FJC. It is a model that is used across the country, but I'm glad to see that. It's not an unheard of model. It's one that I think we really do need to discuss because our CAC is a very critical function. It is a project very, very close to my heart. And I think we could be doing better by those kids and by those families.
Thank you. The reason I wanted you to mention it is because we did get to tour the Santa Clara Children's Advocacy Center, and we got to visit Santa Clara's Family Justice Center, which is only that one day a week, I believe. Yes. And it's important for us to know, to have an idea of the vision that we want to set in our community, but also know maybe the directions that we don't want to go in, right? And so I'll just, I think Santa Clara is great, but I think we want something different for this community when it comes to the Family Justice Center. But their Child Advocacy Center was amazing, and so we are investing time in going to different centers so that we can kind of integrate that into our planning and our thinking, and maybe going forward we can extend invites to everyone on this council. I don't know that we could all go all at once, but I think it's an important part of the process.
Yeah, I have a comment.
I noticed on the Contra Costa slide, their breakdown of their victims, there was a big chunk of child abuse victims. Is their Family Justice Center include a child advocacy center?
I actually don't believe that's the case. I think what she said was that was off-site. So I'm not really sure how that happened. I pulled it up.
I think they're all together in San Diego.
They're all together in San Diego. They're not together in Ventura. But there are a number of counties where they are, and I think it would be interesting just for those of us who work on that side of the coin to get an idea about how Contra Costa is accessing or opening their doors to sexual assault and child abuse victims if they don't have a CAC internalized.
Yeah, so do folks have any questions for Elisa or any suggestions? I want to open the floor.
I just have a huge raw for the inclusion of conversation about child advocacy. Even though I know that's not the main focus of this group, I would very much appreciate the consideration, because I do think our child advocacy center it's an understatement to say it needs some love and care. It's in crisis. Yeah. It feels like it was falling apart this year. So it's awesome.
I'm trying really hard. And for those of you who don't know, Jerry have dedicated a significant amount of their time and careers to, you know, caring for clients through the Keller Center. And, you know, I think we all kind of have a wish for improvement.
Absolutely. And I also earlier had the CAPC, the Child Abuse Prevention Council meeting, and I also shared with them that we got to tour the Child Advocacy Center, and you know, just to kind of like plant the seed in different spaces so that we can build more energy that we're gonna really need to, you know, bring this vision to fruition. It's gonna take all of us. So yeah, I don't know if anyone else has anything, but let's move on to public comment.
Hello, Renata, can you hear us?
Hi there. I can hear you. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I have a question for you all, and I understand that you may not be able to address it at this time, but if you can think about this question and somehow, some way address it, it would be greatly appreciated, because a lot of victims of domestic violence, when they leave that abusive relationship, the abuse doesn't end there. It continues via post-separation abuse, litigation, financial abuse, emotional abuse. So my question to you all is, how many of you have actually attended or observed family court proceedings? How many of you have sat and observed the judges and attorneys' behaviors towards survivors, towards children, towards the, you know, these parents, these survivors are trying to protect their children, and the judges and lawyers and custody evaluators and et cetera are enriching themselves while snatching the children from the primary caregiver, the primary parent, the safe parent, and handing them over to the abusive parent. So how many of you are actually going out on the field and listening to these cases just unfold? Because domestic violence is not just about an incident that occurs and that person survives that moment. Domestic violence continues even after the survivor leaves, and it's dragged on for years. And it's once, what I'm realizing is that once a perpetrator is identified, the system hands them all the tools to continue the abuse. So how many of you are actually sitting in the courtrooms and listening to the court cases? I would like to know that.
Thank you for your comment. We have Nate now.
All right. Hey, can you hear me all right?
Yes.
So I just wanted to bring up, I'll give you a little rundown. I was born in Concord, so I grew up in Contra Costa County, and I'm listening to you guys talk about Contra Costa County, and I don't know if you guys are aware that they do not have a very good record of being honest. It appears that the DA dropped 40 cases tainted by police's moral turpitude. The thing about it is essentially what's going on here, and to jump in on what Ren was saying, is that essentially when a victim is abused of domestic violence and it somehow hits family court, she's correct. It just continues. It continues from there, and it continues from the people that these people are reaching out to for help. And I can't even, I mean, I can tell you because I've experienced it myself and I'm going through it currently. When you leave a domestic violence situation and you go to the cops or you go to the police or you go to the courts and you ask for help, you're like, help me, help me, help me, I'm being abused, after you've been mentally and physically beaten down. It's the abuse continues from the people that are supposed to protect them. And this kind of goes out to the sheriff, and I'm sorry, I'm calling you out because I don't really know you, sir, but basically it goes, you're kind of responsible for that. Because you are the leader of the group that is supposed to be protecting the community. And unfortunately, as a leader, because I consider myself one as well. You know, I've worked in management, and right now I'm in the process of leading a civil rights movement for parents. But nonetheless, you guys are responsible for that because your officers are obviously not doing what they're supposed to be doing. Now, oh, I'm sorry, Christina Corpus. Sorry. Somebody just corrected me on that. I'm sorry I have to call you out, but unfortunately, as a leader of a community, of a department that's failing, it relies on you. You're the leader. And the thing about it is, I see that like you're going to trainings and you're giving all these trainings, and I get it, but if it doesn't sink in, you need to get rid of those officers, plain and simple. This community and this world and these people that are abused by domestic violence don't have time to mess with corrupt officials. So what it boils down to is, it's unfortunate that it has to get to the point where I actually have, there's a parent that's in this meeting right now that's actually formulating a federal RICO case against San Mateo. And there's probably going to be a lot of parents jumping on the back of that. So it's unfortunate that it has to get to the point where we have to defend our rights. You know, we have a constitutional rights and they're in place. They've been around since 1787. And all of you leaders need to understand it, because you can't take those away. Those are fundamental rights. And our 14th Amendment is the right to be a parent, and we can do whatever we want with our children. So the thing about it is you guys need to shape up. I mean, you guys, the training isn't enough. If you can't do the job, if you don't have the mental capability or the emotional stability to be able to be here for the community and throw away that blue line gang that's going on, where they're protecting each other from lying and corruption, then you don't need to be there.
Thank you for your comment. Do we have anyone else online? Okay, we'll move on to in person. Would anyone, oh, we have one more. Okay, would anyone else in person like to give public comment?
In person, I'm speaking on behalf of myself and somebody online who has lost her voice. And I believe I know what she's referring to, and it's called the Brooklyn Playbook. But her question is, do you know that there's lawyers, judges, guardian ad litem, gals, custody evaluators, other court actors? There's a playbook for going after a particular parent and just diminishing them. We just saw this happen with Catherine Kasanoff, who went to Sweden for an assisted suicide, and she lost her 3 children to her abuser. So yeah, there's this kind of human trafficking aspect that's happening all over the nation, if not the world, and it's definitely here in San Mateo County. So the online person is asking, who is responsible for overseeing this, and yeah, we really wish all of our voices could be heard. So thank you for having us here today.
Thank you. Can you please just state your name for the record?
Yes, my name is Brenna Gano McNabb.
Thank you. Okay, do we have any other online or in-person comments? Okay, moving on to committee reports. And I just want to name that we had many of these committees are overlapping with some of the task force updates. So if we can just focus on what hasn't already been shared, that'd be great.
On to Nicole?
No, I gave my opinion.
Okay, all right. For the Legal Processes Committee, we met this afternoon and we discussed a few items, including updating the judicial bench card. We talked about the rotation of the judges and commissioners. we got an update on the GVRO project and a commitment from myself to revive the DV protocol review process. So hopefully we'll have some more information on that at our next meeting in April.
Thank you. With that, let's take public comment. Committee reports.
Hello, Renata.
Hi there.
Go ahead, we can hear you.
Yes, so there is a person online, and unfortunately she lost her voice. And she had a very similar question to mine. And she was wondering if you can raise your hands to the question. How many of you have actually seen firsthand how attorneys, judges, custody evaluators, and other court officials have conspired together to enrich themselves while snatching children primarily from a fit parent, primarily from a survivor of domestic violence, someone who has been urging for the county and their officers for support been denied. How many of you have actually witnessed the institutional betrayal that is going on right now? So she's asking if you can raise your hands.
Is that your entire public comment?
Yes, I'm actually speaking on behalf of a Giselle Smeal who's on the line, but she has lost her voice, so she cannot speak.
That's okay, I understand. I just wanted to know if that was the entire comment.
Yes.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else for public comment? Okay, I feel like I saw a hand go up and down. There's no hands up right now. If you want to give a public comment, please raise your hand. Let's give Rhonda time.
She just, but
Rhonda put her hand up and down several times. I think maybe that's an accident, but it went up after I asked you.
Rhonda, do you want to give public comment?
Yes, I've been trying to. I got skipped over on that last session, and I don't know why I had my hand up and I got skipped. So thank you for catching up on that. I wanted to ask, where are you getting your data from? Because when I looked at that pie chart, you had a teeny tiny sliver that was marked for child trafficking, and that is absolutely incorrect because the Sound of Freedom movie came out last year. There's an enormous body of evidence coming out about how prevalent the child trafficking is here in the United States, which is the #1 destination location for child trafficking. And looking at that list of alleged groups and agencies that we as victims are supposed to be able to go to, I saw CASA and Catholic Charities on there. We already know the Catholics got caught out for raping boys. And I'm hearing from a lot of impacted families that CASA is abusing children and trafficking them. So I'm really disturbed to see them on that list. The pattern of practice is that victims ask for help. We get identified, targeted, and exploited. And to the other two commenters, the family court is the #1 child trafficking organization that is happening not just here in San Mateo, not just in California, but across the entire country. And again, we've asked for help. I've engaged with many of these services in San Mateo County. I've been looking at your council. I'm incredibly shocked to see how many people I asked for help. And I will go back to Sheriff Christina Corpus, who was so disingenuous. She's just untrustworthy. So if I can't trust the sheriff, then her entire department, all 800 members, are untrustworthy. And I can tell you there were dozens of San Mateo sheriff deputies who fabricated, who violated my rights to equal protection, ignored the domestic violence. Several of them participated in fabricating false evidence against me and omitting exculpatory evidence. And this is not okay. My daughter has been trafficked to her abusive father, and she lives with him 100% of the time. So that teeny tiny sliver, that's inaccurate. Everyone I know in family court, when they report domestic violence, they lose custody of their children. That's a 100% data point. So your pie chart is actually in reverse. And yeah, Sheriff Christie, you need to step down. I'm asking for your resignation. You know, for you to come in here to a domestic violence council meeting and try to gaslight us and gaslight the public, that's unacceptable. But this is 2024. We're going to get justice this year.
Okay, thank you for your comment. I don't see any, oh, there's one more hand. I want to recognize that we are a little bit over time, but public comment is a really important part of these meetings. And so I just want to ask for folks to have some patience. And I think Nate, you're up next for public comment.
I think he went already.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you already went.
Yeah, I
We
don't
talked
know.
about something. Oh, no, maybe this is committee. No, you're right. Sorry.
There we go. I was waiting for the unmute thing to pop up. Sorry about that. I'd have to totally agree with Rhonda. What's going on here is definitely it's an enforcement problem. It definitely, and like I said, yeah, I mean, she asked for your resignation. I would probably agree on that because, like I said, it falls onto a leadership thing. Obviously, the leaders of the community for the sheriff's office is not doing what they're supposed to be doing. It seems to me that they are abusing the public, and these are victims. You're basically taking a victim that's already down and kicking them down in the dirt worse. I would have to agree. And the child trafficking thing, I agree with her on that as well. I mean, I see it systematically happening to a lot of courts, and there needs to be some accountability. I mean, let's put it in this perspective. This is you're in a courtroom, a family courtroom, and I don't know if you guys are aware, but in a family courtroom, most of the time, there's no court reporters, there's no jury. There is the evidence is all based on a preponderance of evidence, so basically means whoever's the more convincing liar. And honestly, narcissist type people are really good liars. They believe their lies. So a lot of times judges will they're narcissistic themselves, and they all get on the same team. And unfortunately, our children are the ones that suffer mostly from this. So that needs to be recognized. All these trainings you guys are going to, all these like statistics that you're pulling and all that, you're getting them from the wrong sources. The thing about it is, I think if you guys want some training, I don't mind. I'll donate some time. I'll come down there and teach you guys how to be more empathetic to people. Because it seems to me that you guys are apparently the trainings aren't working for you. So basically what you're doing is just wasting a bunch of taxpayers' money to hire these professionals to come in, and it's not doing anything other than making it worse. It's just making you better at taking children away. So the thing about it is you guys need to do something about it. And if the leaders aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing, then they need to step down and put somebody in there that can do the job properly. Thank you.
Okay, not seeing any new hands for public comment. We will move on to announcements. The next Domestic Violence Council meeting will be held on April 11th. And we will combine the task force meeting with that meeting in April. And I just want to put a request out for anyone that would like to share a survivor story for April. Please, keep that in mind. And if you have a story or even, you know, if there's a survivor that wants a more formal way to share their story, please reach out to Jackie or I, and we can coordinate that. And we're gonna wrap up. Do we need to do public comment on announcements? No, okay. I have an announcement. So I wanna open the floor for any more announcements, and then I just have one more thing to share before we wrap up.
So the San Mateo County Superior Court is developing its strategic plan. And so they have opened a survey, and they're encouraging everyone to submit their to their survey, and you can find that survey at sanmateo.courts.ca.gov/survey, or you can find it on the San Mateo County Court's website, and they are taking input on the survey until January 19th.
Jackie, I did forward it to everyone already.
That's for the public.
Okay, thank you. Any other announcements? No? Okay, I just want to wrap up by saying that while this meeting maybe has felt different than others, I actually really appreciate the engagement via public comment. I think we need this kind of we need this energy to inform our work. I personally don't agree with everything that was said, but I do think that there were many important takeaways, and I just want to offer. I'm going to email Renata and Joan if you want to. I'm happy to meet with people separate. So I just wanted to say that, and thank you all for being here and the work that you do. I know everyone here has the intention and does make a positive impact in our community. So again, thanks for being here, and we will see you in April. With that, we're adjourned at 4:48.
Yeah. And you can able to send back, please.
Yeah.